hitting on the goods. Someone's already got a lot of stuff, and they're into D-Day. But most of the problems on this planet are because white rabbits don't have themselves a rabbit hole. They don't have any effective leadership, and we have all the weapons. It is this weird contradiction. You know, we sit across the top of the planet. We have you know, the whole entire top of the planet, but we don't have a home. We don't have a racial home. There's another group that has themselves a racial home, the little Jew rabbits, but they won't go there. No, they're not there. They're with us. They're in Venezuela. They're in China, but they're not in Israel. Very weird stuff going on in so-called Western civilization. Western civilization is, to me, just a gene pool. You know, if little white rabbits moved to Mars, then so-called Western civilization moved to Mars. You know. But it occurred to me when I first read the mantra, when I read that coming into form, that Bob was speaking for that Sith Lord. That's something that this planet doesn't know exists, but exists, and that someone's in trouble, and they're in the type of trouble you ain't walking away from. I don't care what happens, but that's good news. What I wanted to crack down to get things moving. But now, of course, demoralization is coming off. Now we're moving no matter what, because the place is crashing down. And I'm going to go into Russia next, and we're going to start talking about Russia. The next few sessions, I'm going to work Russia into this discussion. But I wanted to talk about the mantra when I first saw that. The people I was sitting around were really frightened for people. You know, so if you wake up one morning in Western civilization, you see people jumping to their deaths, Hallmark names jumping to their death, you know what's coming. There is so much pressure going on, I'm assuming it's been happening for a while, and someone's in trouble. Because you can only imagine the type of archive some intelligence agencies has on these groups. I mean, you just can't go on record saying you're going to wipe out a gene pool, then do it, and then someone gets hurt. It's ruthless stuff. It is ruthless stuff. And there's parties on this planet that they're not going to back away if you're going after white rabbits, and they have you. In fact, there's parties on this planet against our enemies. They're not backing away no matter what. So I just wanted to go over that when I first saw the mantra. But these talking points, these particular messages, are good for a lot of different stuff. Whether it be, I assumed when I got the call up to do this, you know, it came in a roundabout way, and you know, I don't ask questions. My job is always to do and not to say. People that ask questions are saying something, but I assume it was for a reason. When I first read it, I know most of the guys on Bugs, you know, they know Bob, but maybe they haven't heard all the stories. Well, a certain percentage of stories are true, and he speaks for he can put the message out for some people. Some people that are good for our struggle, that know what's going on. But there's always a lot more going on with our struggle behind the scenes, because our stuff is always wide sky. And we'll talk about that with Russia coming up right now. Many people around the world have seen these so-called revolutions, the colored revolutions, the rose revolutions. I think I mentioned the rose revolution before. You know, me a rose, you a rose, or me orange, you orange. But many of those aren't revolutions. I mean, another group comes to power, but if you have to buy something with that much money, it's never sustainable. When the Orange Revolution happened, within so many months they were already using what I call control points. In other words, across the grid to control anything, you got to have these critical points, at least so many of them. And you know, they were already in there. The other sides were taking them back because it wasn't organic. It was simply a divide and rule type thing, and someone bought someone and pulled someone into power, and then of course the U.S. government, State Department, so on and so forth, comes around showering money. The Rose Revolution in Georgia was similar type of thing. That type of thing is not sustainable. If someone calls a, you know, it's almost like every one of these things is called a revolution, but it's not. What happened in Russia, and that's what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to have a Bob-style porch talk. I'm going to be talking in a roundabout way about different scenarios and whatnot with Russia. What we saw in Russia was never labeled a revolution. Yeah, you never heard what Mr. Putin, Pooty-Poot, as I call him, coming to power in Russia, his roll to power, all the things that happened, a revolution. but it was probably the most critical in my since I graduated from high school or college. It was a very significant event for Western civilization, for the European tribes. In fact, I called it the beginning of the third revolution. The first revolution being the American, because it was against a simple ideal of these tyrannical bankers and so on. The second one being, happened in World War II. This concept of the third position, opposing everything. It's just a mentality. But again, you're dealing with your same money side, the same money people. And of course, the third revolution is what started with Russia when they kicked out the oligarchs. And it was a process. But it's never once been called a revolution. The Orange Revolution gets called a revolution, but yet it's fallen apart. Russia every day strengthens, even in a downturn economy it strengthens, and the whole world, by the way, is going in a bucket. The whole world is experiencing problems. So everyone, if you're talking about Americans or Germans and whatnot, have yet to experience problems like they're seeing in other parts of the world, but we will. It's that time on the calendar. It's a time when change is going to happen, whether anyone likes it or not. But Russia, watching Russia was fascinating for me for many different reasons. Our enemy likes to do the same thing. They like to try to square circles. And one of their tactics is, and let me define our enemy for it. I call them the red hippopotamus. That's their god. It's chaos. It's everything upside down in your life. It's always trying to square the circle. It's always trying to do the impossible. In Anglosphere, it's hard to run across the Hebrews. But it's more than that. It's a mindset. But, in Anglosphere, in America, it's a who's who of Hebrews at the top. Around them, you will have traitors, white people that look like us that have no loyalty to us. And our enemy owns all traitors. Yeah, that red hippo owns all traitors, and all traitors he will always own. That's the mentality. If you've got a traitor to business, a traitor on any level whatsoever, it's almost cosmic. He owns all traitors anywhere in the world. If you got a traitor to his people in Africa, he's a pink rabbit. They own all traitors. But one thing he likes to do, in Anglosphere, will surround himself with, insulate themselves with traitors. They insulate themselves with women, and they insulate themselves with majorities or minorities majorities who live with us as minorities. What they call minorities. I don't call them that. But the flaw in the strategy is always the women. And I'm going to get back to Anglosphere and what they did with social engineering. But in Russia, it's a similar type of thing. The oligarchs had a ton of traitors around them, and you were in an interesting standpoint because obviously all of Russia was on the line, believe it or not. Yeah, every inch of it was on the line. They were going to split the place up or destroy the place or whatever. And of course they had a lot of women. And Russia has always utilized women vastly different than the social engineering stuff. In fact, if you go to Russia right now, and even if you look them up online, the youth movements, and they have women in all kinds of different critical points. They even have women in power points. What is a critical point? A critical point is any point in an organization or a group of organizations that can control or cause chaos at the blink of an eye. It is deceptive because it's not always obvious, but it is no less a critical point. A power point is something where you visually say, oh, that guy has a lot of power. For instance, in a Fortune 500 company, let's give a hallmark name, Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble is going to have several different critical points. You're not going to see those critical points, but they are critical. One person at that point, if he or she chooses, can cause chaos across a variety of different departments. You're also going to have PowerPoints. Now, your PowerPoints are obvious. It's the CEO. It's the executive vice president. It's someone making strategy. It's someone talking on CNBC. Most people think PowerPoints have power, but that's mostly visual. or maybe you realize that the director at your local agency, if he just slipped down a banana peel and fell out the window or something, the place would run a lot smoother. Yeah, some of those power heads, some of those figureheads aren't all they're cracked up to be. But your